afternoon. Love 3. This is our third session. This afternoon I'm still talking on an aspect of love, namely pure unconditional love, which was practiced by a large group called the Cathars, who exploded onto the European scene around about the first millennium, the first 1,000 years. The beliefs that they had, the people took to them, and especially the French aristocracy, and especially the women, for the simple reason is that until that time, love as we know it, romance, romantic love, had been cast aside when the Holy Roman Empire became Christian. And for some 400 or 500 years, we only had, when we spoke of love, it was religious love, love of the church, love of God, things like that. But romantic love, two people falling in love as we know it today, had just appeared. Well, that was part of the Romans certainly had romance as we know it. The Cathars, and the reason why the Cathars had women as equal, or everyone as equal, was because of this pure unconditional love, which unconditional meant it was for everybody. So it meant that certainly within the Cathar clergy, they were called perfecti. Everybody was equal, and in fact 50% of their clergy was women. So women were elevated into intellectual, spiritual beings. At that time, it has to be remembered that women were a commodity. In fact, it was only not long before the first millennium that a council of church bishops got together and they debated and voted on whether women actually had a soul. And thankfully, they agreed that women had a soul by one vote. So women were a commodity. They were there, they had their practical purposes, and that was for kingdoms coming together, for security, for allegiance, for security, the fact that two families are stronger, and they use marriage to cement these agreements. The Cathars come along, and because marriage was, women were just a commodity, they had no time for marriage. They were interested in love. To them, what mattered was the quality of your love between two people. So Jack was as good as his master, and Mary was as good as her mistress. This was a revolutionary in a feudal society, where in the church you had the Pope, the cardinals, bishops, priests, and so forth, each going down, each owing allegiance to the other. In secular society, we had the emperor or king with his lords and his knights and so forth, going down to the commoners, to the serfs. Everybody belonged or owed allegiance to someone else. Suddenly, you had these Cathars, owing allegiance to nobody, swearing oaths to nobody, treating everybody as equal, men and women. From this, a range of things happened. It was in some ways a mini Renaissance, because we had the troubadours in the south, around France, and then in Germany they were called mini singers, and these were people who went around, wrote poems, wrote songs, sang songs, extolling the virtues and beauty of women. Love as we know it had arrived. Not only love as we knew it, they also had a very high spiritual form of love, where a knight or a troubadour could fall in love with their lord's lady. Because the Lord and his lady in the castle, when they were brought together, it was for practical purposes, it wasn't for love. So marriage and love wasn't an issue at all. So he was love purely for love's sake, for romance. We had the courts of love, where women reigned supreme and men and gallants and courtiers had to come up and go on do gallant deeds, write poetry about the beauty of the women. So women were elevated as intellectual beings and women and people of beauty. This was, well, the people loved it. And in fact, Pope Innocent III, he actually stated at one point that 80%, he considered 80% of his clergy, that's bishops and priests, monks, were either Cathars or had Cathar sympathy. So he had a real dilemma. He could see his church disappearing in front of him. It wasn't exploding. His church, the Christian church, was only the Catholic church at the time, was actually imploding, coming in on itself, all because of these damn Cathars. The Cathars had other beliefs as well, but their main, the other belief that really rankled the Catholic Church was their belief in reincarnation. It was a Cathar, rather than the Christian idea of one life, one chance of salvation or damnation, which can be unfair. I mean, some people have 9 years of life and other people have 90 years. With the Cathars and with reincarnation, it was a different kettle of fish. What they believe is that we have lifetime after lifetime after lifetime to perfect ourselves, to really learn pure unconditional love. That's one aspect. The other aspect of Gnosticism is that not only do you have a mind, a body and a soul, but there is also a divine spark. And this divine spark arrived from an entity that always was. And ultimately the divine spark wants to return to the source, to this entity. And so therefore it may take many, many lifetimes until you perfect yourselves. But the thing was, there's no damnation, no hell, there is a happy ending for everybody. Also with reincarnation, it meant that you had to perfect your lives rather than the clergy tell you what to do. You had to sort it out and really organise your own spiritual life's journey. I'm going to leave it at that. But there are aspects within this that we can look at and explore at a later date. Bye for now. Signing off. Matthias.